Turn off the power and disconnect the cord from the machine. Remove the center cover by turning it counterclockwise. Remove the 3 screws holding the disc to the axle. Remove the front disc. Repeat these steps on the other side. On the left side of the frame, slowly rotate the wheel and work the generator belt off of the pulley. On the right side, loosen the belt tension bolt on the tension pulley. Take off the drive belt. Remove the plastic cover where the pedal arm attaches to the crank. Disconnect the pedal arm from the crank. Repeat these steps on the other side. Wrap a cloth around the handlebar and secure it with zip ties. This protects the joint from touching the handlebar and prevents damage to the paint. Remove the screw from the crank. Insert a flat screwdriver into the gap in the crank arm. If necessary, tap the screwdriver with a mallet to insert it into the slot in the crank arm. Gently tap the front of the crank arm with the mallet to remove it from the frame. Repeat these steps on the other side. Use needle nose pliers to remove the C-clip on the left side of the drive axle. Thread a bolt into the left side of the drive axle. Use a mallet to hit the bolt, avoid directly hitting the axle. Remove the axle from the frame. Place the extension tube, from the service kit, into the right side of the unit, and then place the bearing cap onto it. Use a mallet to tap the bearing cap in a circular pattern. Continue until the bearing comes out of the frame. Place the new drive axle into the frame. At the same time, place the bearing cap into the hole on the other side of the frame. Place the bearing cap with the ridged side facing away from the frame. Set up the bolt and nut on the adjustment plate so that the nut is several inches from the head of the bolt. Place the extension tube and adjustment plate against the bearing cap. Use an Allen wrench to thread the bolt into the drive axle. Important: you must thread at least 4 full threads of the bolt into the drive axle before moving on to the next step. This ensures that the tool is properly attached. Though not shown, a ratcheting wrench is recommended in this step. Use a wrench to turn the nut clockwise. This pulls the drive axle into the frame. Continue until the drive axle is very close, almost touching the frame. Once the drive axle is fully inserted, loosen the nut and back out the bolt. Remove the tool from the socket. Use a flat screwdriver to take the bearing cap out of the hole. Insert the new bearing. The orange side of the bearing must face out of the frame. Assemble the service kit in this order: bearing cap, extension tube, and then adjustment plate. The ridged side of the bearing cap faces the extension tube, away from the frame and bearing. Before you begin, thread the nut almost all of the way to the head of the bolt. Important: thread at least 4 threads of the bolt into the drive axle set before moving on to the next step. Hold the bolt in place. Turn the nut clockwise. Though not shown, a ratcheting wrench is recommended in this step. This step is complete once the bearing is level with the frame and you can see the groove for the C-clip on the axle. You may need to take the tool off, check the bearing, and then use the tool again during this process. This image shows the location of the groove for the C-clip. Use needle nose pliers to install the new C-clip. Use a flat screwdriver to press the C-clip in place. Use flat screwdrivers to remove the metal plate on the drive axle. Discard the plate after it is removed. Install the belts, arms, and plastics in reverse order. Tighten the drive belt to 180 pounds for a new belt, or 150 pounds for a used belt. Torque the idler bolt to 80 Newton meters. Use a dead blow nylon hammer to reinstall the crank arm. This protects the paint from damage. Once installed, there should be a 4 mm gap between the end of the drive axle shaft and the crank. Torque the crank bolt to 80 Newton meters. Finish reinstalling the crank arms and pedal arms before reattaching the generator belt. Use zip ties to secure the generator belt to the pulley. Then, pedal on the unit to reinstall the belt. Test the unit after all of the parts are reinstalled.